Hello viewers, it's Josie. Welcome back to Eclectic Movie Reviews. And today is July 25th, 2024, which is I'm gonna have my birthday. My birthday is on July 28th, so I decided before that to talk about some of my favorites of 2024 so far. There's still a couple films I've yet to see to catch up with, but here is the main. I'm gonna talk the main stuff I want to talk about. And just so you know, I'm leaving off Dune and Challengers from this discussion, not because they're not on my personal list of best, but rather because they've been talked about so much. I don't know what else to add. Maybe towards the end of the year I'll add a little more stuff to say about that. But without further ado, let me get right into it. With the first film I'm going to talk about is The Bike Riders, directed by Jeff Nichols. Based on a photography book by Danny Lyon, this is the fictional story of a group of bike riders in the Midwest. Jeff Nichols was inspired by the photographs in this photography book. And I was surprised about how much I really liked this movie. The performances from the acting ensemble are excellent. Austin Butler, Tom Hardy, Jodie Comer, Michael Shannon, etc. It had a great soundtrack. Jodie Comer's character, Kathy, of course, is drawn to the bad boy in Austin Butler's character, Benny. In spite of this, she is the voice of reason. She points out how it's ironic how these guys created the biker group to escape the rules of society, only to create their own society with constricting rules. In conclusion, men are stupid. I found this film to be surprisingly humanistic. That is what grabbed me throughout. I love the performances, and I know Jodie Comer gets made fun of her accent in this movie. I don't care. I think she's fantastic. Love her Midwestern accent. I don't have much else to say about The Bike Riders, but I think a great film to pair this with is George A. Romero's Night Riders from 1981. Let me just talk about Night Riders briefly. King Billy, played by Ed Harris, leads a medieval reenactment traveling group. I'm using the term king in asterisks here because he literally has a vainglory ruler complex. This is similar to Tom Hardy's character in The Bike Riders. He tries so desperately to hold on to his lead position and feels threatened when other younger bikers come to the picture and try to take over the group. And the Night Riders are jousters and circus-adjacent performers who ride on motorcycles instead of horses. Billy's having difficulty holding the group together as the Black Knight Morgan, played by, believe it or not, legendary makeup artist Tom Savini, wants to move on and pursue an LA career. All the Night Riders go through an existential crisis, asking themselves why they're in the Renaissance Fair troupe and what values and benefits it brings into their lives. In both films, the characters go through painful realizations about hanging on to the group, being about how even though it brings a sense of comfort and familiarity, the lifestyle has run its course. But, meaningful connections with people could still be found. And, so that's what I have to say about that. Next up is Chicken for Linda, an animated film. The animation is really cool. This film's directed by Chiara Malta and Sebastian Laudenbach. The animation reminded me a little bit of the show Doug, with how people had different skin colors, besides the usual skin colors. I'm talking blue, green, yellow. You can make that connection to The Simpsons, too. Anyway, so in Chicken for Linda, a woman named Paulette has a young daughter named Linda. Linda's father died, so Paulette is raising her by herself with some help from her sister. One day, Paulette grounds Linda for trying to sell the wedding ring, but it turns out to be a misunderstanding. The cat ate it. And Paulette boldly attempts to right this wrong, if you will, by cooking a chicken and peppers dish for her that her dad always liked. This compels Linda to go on an adventure to get a chicken to cook. However, a strike takes place. This adventure brings Linda closer to her family and friends. New friends are even made. This is a super sweet, fun, kid-driven adventure where the kids have the best intentions of doing good. The adults, too, are dragged along the crazy ride and have some learning to do as well. Chicken for Linda is available to rent VOD on Amazon for a few dollars, and it is on the Criterion Channel. I'm not sure about its DVD and Blu-ray availability, but GKids tends to put their stuff out on Blu-ray. If I'm not mistaken, I think they have like some sort of I believe they have some sort of partnership with Shout Factory. So I would imagine it would be released sometime in the future, but hopefully we don't have to wait too long. Next up, Furiosa, a Mad Max saga directed by George Miller. What can I say? George Miller is a master. I love the way he shoots the desert. I love the color palette. This is true authorship written all over the screen. Furiosa is certainly a spectacle, but I don't think George Miller gets enough credit for how good of a writer he is. Furiosa's backstory does not feel shoehorned in or forced like other recent, same universe set stuff. And watching it, I thought this makes sense as to what would happen prior to Mad Max Fury Road. Of course, Charlize Theron's performance as Furiosa is iconic, but Anya Taylor-Joy makes it her own. Towards the end, she channels Charlize's energy, as she becomes the Furiosa we later see. It's a performance that really surprised me in Furiosa was Tom Burke as Praetorian Jack. I love the dynamic between him and Furiosa. As a whole, I preferred Mad Max Fury Road just a teensy bit more, but there is one aspect in Furiosa I like a little better than that of Fury Road. Okay, so there's no explicit romance between Max and Furiosa, but viewers could optionally imagine that off-screen if they wanted to. Max is not a main character in Furiosa, so some consider Jack to be the Max surrogate or stand-in. I understand why people think that way, but I still don't consider them to be 100% equal copies of each other. Nevertheless, the point I'm getting at is I prefer the idea of Jack and Furiosa as a romantic pair over Max and Furiosa. I think that Max is always meant to be on the road anyway, therefore not settling down. Also, not that any TMZ adjacent stuff ruins my enjoyment of certain movies at all, but maybe a little bit to some extent, but most of the time, a good majority of the time, no. But it is known that Tom Hardy and Charlize Theron did not get along on the set of Mad Max Fury Road. Besides, the real love story in Fury Road is Nux and Capable, Nicholas Hoult and Riley Keough's characters. Their on-screen chemistry is flaming like the wheels of the cars in the wasteland. Probably it just so happens that Nicholas Hoult is a Sagittarius and Riley Keough a Gemini. Astrological sign opposites attracting. I don't want to make this astrological analysis of the Mad Max universe, but I will say that it is fitting that Anya Taylor-Joy being an Aries, a fire sign, is fitting for Furiosa. Charlize Theron is a fire sign too. Leo, that's my sign! And the best part about Anya Taylor-Joy's performance as Furiosa is the balance of vulnerability and toughness she brings to the character. And what else can I say? I love Furiosa. I love all the Mad Max movies. It's one of my favorite franchises. I will end my write-up on Furiosa as this. For those of you just getting introduced to the Mad Max franchise, she's a great role model with how fiercely headstrong and independent she is. Chris Hemsworth is also excellent. He manages to be both funny and intimidating. I hope more and more people get to see this movie down the line when it becomes a cult classic. That young female viewers will feel empowered thinking, I want to be like her. And next up, is Hitman, directed by Richard Linklater. A screenplay by Richard Linklater and Glenn Powell, the star. A psychology/philosophy professor named Gary Johnson, played brilliantly by Glenn Powell, has a side job as a fake hitman for the local police precinct. And so what's funny is, like, with his clients he helps, he takes on sort of like the, based on like who the client is, like all the different personalities he comes up with it as the fake hitman. You'll get it when you watch it. You get what I'm saying if you watch it. And then one of the clients he helps out is a super sexy woman named Madison, played by Adria Arjona, who's trying to get out of an abusive marriage. Glenn Powell and Adria Arjona are terrific. Their romance is sizzlingly steamy and also genuinely cute. The supporting cast, including Austin Emilio, Sanjay Rao, Graylin Bryant Banks, and Retta, were also surprising delights. Linklater and Powell, as far as writing is concerned, have interesting insights on their mind here as far as how we create and shape our lives through the stories we tell ourselves and the personas we put on the world. And this has a throwback 90s or 2000s crime romantic comedy feel to something akin to Gore Verbinski's The Mexican. I think another film you could maybe sort of pair this with kind of is it's from the 80s. I believe, yeah, I think it is from the 80s, is Something Wild, the Jonathan Demme film. Some may find it tonally strange. It is a cringy subject matter, but the movie Home Fries with Luke Wilson, Drew Barrymore, directed by Dean Ponsoit. I don't remember his full name, and written by Vince Gilligan, the creator of Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul. So yeah, that's Hitman. Next up, Yorgos Lanthimos' anthology, Kinds of Kindness. I think Kinds of Kindness is a brilliantly thought-provoking examination of the dangers of cults and brainwashing in our society. It's a warning call. Though not at all directly overt, the film is more politically relevant than people are giving credit for that reason. Look, I don't want to get it with like the rise of cults in our society. I don't want to get too far into the specific cults, because this isn't CNN or MSNBC. This isn't Pod Save America. So anyway, in a tone vibe akin to The Twilight Zone, Yorgos Lanthimos and co-writer Efthymis Philippou explore different types of control, power, and manipulation. The first story follows a man named Robert, played by Jesse Plemons, whose everyday steps and actions are overseen and decided by his boss, Raymond, played by Willem Dafoe. In the second story, a police officer named Daniel, played by Jesse Plemons, I forgot to mention that the same actors played different roles in each segment. So anyway, Daniel, played by Jesse Plemons, becomes paranoid when his wife, Liz, returns back from being lost at sea. I'm using asterisks because he suspects that she is not his real wife. The third story follows a cult devotee, Emily, played by Emma Stone, who seeks to find a messiah for the cult group she's part of. I don't want to give away any more specifics, but these stories are gnarly with bitingly sharp insights into the human tendencies of control and manipulation. Many reviewers have pointed out how the film asks what lengths you're willing to reach in order to receive acceptance from others and prove your love and devotion to someone. That is certainly true, but the film also asks what the intentions behind control and submission to control are. What purpose do they serve? What benefits/trade-offs do they provide? And next up is La Chimera, directed by Liche Rohrwacher, a filmmaker that I really like. Newly free from prison time, Arthur, Josh O'Connor, who's absolutely fantastic here, returns to Italy. He's grieving his long-missing love Benyama, though not physically present through most of the film. Her spirit lingers. He spends time living with I'm pronouncing her name, Benihama's family, and basically being a total slacker. Arthur then joins a group of Etruscan tomb-raiding black market archaeologists. And then throughout his journey, he learns about the beauty of nature and the value that these art pieces and artifacts have beyond making money off of them. The cinematography has a fairy tale-like quality. I see this film as sort of a critique, in a way, of how we perceive film. There's so much annoying and toxic discourse about box office looking past the true integrity of the cinematic art form. That happened with Furiosa. Don't get me started on that. Just like artifacts in La Chimera, art is not about making money. It is about beauty. Arthur sort of develops a relationship with one of Benyama's housemates, Italia. It ultimately ends up being a more teacher-student relationship than a passionate romantic one, given that his true love is Benyama. But Italia tells Arthur that these artifacts, though beautiful, are not really meant to be seen by the eyes of the public. There was a review on Letterboxd that said masculine/feminism, capitalism/socialism, human/nature, life/afterlife. So basically what was meant by that was Liche Rohrwacher cleverly explores these opposites and contradictions in an elegantly resonant manner. She also balances grounded realism and mysticism very sharply. And La Chimera is truly one of the most underrated movies of the year. Certainly, it's one of the most insightfully creative movies I have seen this decade so far. And please, for the love of God, Neon, what are you doing? Why isn't this on Hulu or physical media yet? I mean, maybe there is going to be a physical media release. I don't know, but come on, what are you doing? More people should see this. Anyway, next up is Thelma, directed by Josh Margolin. This movie is a joyful delight. For those of you who do not know, the story follows the titular elderly senior widow, played magnificently by June Squibb from Nebraska, as she seeks revenge upon a telemarketing fraud scam. Somebody calls pretending to be her grandson, asking for urgent emergency help, and money is stolen from her. Thelma has a grandson named Danny, played by Fred Heckinger, and he helps her out with stuff, especially technology, and he's quite good in this movie, and he's going to be in Gladiator 2, and I'm looking forward to seeing his performance in that. And so Danny's parents, Thelma's daughter and son-in-law, are played by Parker Posey and Clark Gregg, and they're also great. Please, Parker Posey, I'm so happy to see Parker Posey back in things. Like, I enjoyed seeing her in that short bit in Beau's Afraid. The Parker Sans is upon us. So Thelma embarks on her adventure, joined by an old friend, Ben, played by the late, great Richard Roundtree. And this movie is just as much of a showcase for June Squibb as it is Richard Roundtree. It's often nice when we get comedies about seniors that portray them in such a positive light and not just the butt of a joke. And you're never too old to be funny or to be a badass action hero like June Squibb is here. Thelma is also a great family adventure comedy because as our titular character is venturing with Richard Roundtree, her family is trying to find her. Thelma isn't, I believe, on VOD now. It's still playing in some theaters. I don't know how many more, but it was a really big hit, which is great. Pretty decent hit. And I'm so happy for the success of this movie. And I think definitely more and more when it comes on like physical media and free streaming, I hope even more people check it out, because it's a classic modern. I think it's a modern classic comedy in the making. I had a blast. And then lastly, now this movie is super popular right now, and also generating some annoying discourse, which I'll get to, and that is Twisters, directed by Lee Isaac Chung, and there's a story credit from Top Gun director Joseph Kosinski. And then the writer, I forgot the script writer's name, but I'll look that up. But yeah, I loved this movie. I'm not ashamed to say it. It is perfect escapism. I love Glenn Powell and Daisy Edgar Jones in it, as well as the supporting players Anthony Ramos, Brendan Pereira, Sasha Lane, Katie O'Brien, David Corenswet, and Tunde Adebimpe. I'm probably pronouncing his name wrong, from the band TV on the Radio. I like how, in terms of action set pieces go, it doesn't play safe. There are high stakes. I love the way Lee Isaac Chung shoots the rural American heartland. Glenn Powell is a true star on the rise. I don't know if this is his performance or the writing of his character, but what's so great about Glenn Powell as a romantic lead in this and Hitman, I haven't watched Anyone But You yet, but I probably should, given how great of a year Glenn Powell is having. So anyway, what I love is that when Glenn Powell's characters flirt with girls, it's not like in a gross or misogynistic way. In other words, he communicates the energy of, oh my gosh, this girl's super cute, this hot, but he's not like, it doesn't feel like overtly objectifying them. I don't know how to describe it. Like, in Twisters, for instance, he's both drawn to and intimidated by how smart Daisy Edgar Jones' character Kate is. When we first see the two rival storm chasing teams pitted against each other, it is easy to assume that Glenn Powell and his team of ragtag chasers are less competent than Daisy Edgar Jones and Anthony Ramos's, given that they don't have PhDs or government science grant money. Glenn Powell's character's name is Tyler, and he's certainly a wise ass upon first introduction. Kate and Tyler get to know each other a bit more, and she realizes that he's smart and useful. Okay, let me get to the stupid discourse, like, oh, do they actually have good chemistry? Is she even good in it? And, like, and then the stupidest discourse I've seen is the lack of kissing. This outcry is so childish. Like, really? This is the point we've gotten to in so-called film criticism? Like, do I love good kissing scenes in movies? Sure I do. But obviously kissing is not the only way to show love or affection, or like for like a movie's romantic couple to be like have good chemistry or be romantic. Like, and I do think that there is a whole long, now to be fair, I do think there is a whole long separate conversation to be had about mainstream movies being afraid to show sexuality. It's this scenario, however, had nothing to do with that. Part of the reasoning of the kissing being cut, from my understanding, was not just Spielberg like gave a note saying not, it would be cliche, but I think there was another part of it stating that they wanted to hold off on showing a kiss in the event that if the film is successful enough to warrant a sequel, which I believe we will get, like to have any kissing be in there. And this is not the first romantic film to not include kissing between the romantic leads who get together. I mean, like, if you look, or even like, and it doesn't like take away from sexiness either to not include like kissing or romantic touching. Like, so if you look at In the Mood for Love, Wong Kar-wai's In the Mood for Love, and Tran Anh Hong's Scent of the Green Papaya, these are heavily erotic movies without showing sex or like deep, overly, deep physical love. And even just like by the touching of physical items in those films is like the implicit eroticism. And Emmett and Elle in the first Legally Blonde don't kiss at the end. It's mentioned in the blurb that Emmett is proposing to Elle tonight. They don't show kissing. And people weren't complaining about that back then. Oh, and not to mention, speaking of Spielberg, Alan and Ellie don't kiss at the end of the first Jurassic Park. I didn't see Jurassic World Dominion or whatever the heck was called, because Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom was such a total piece of shit, and I just gave up on the franchise. But I heard that Alan and Ellie kiss at the end of that, which is nice, but still, that franchise should just freaking end already. But yeah, and Peter and Gamora don't kiss at the end of the first Guardians of the Galaxy. Okay, I've gone way too long about that. It's just like really toxic, stupid discourse that should just stop. Like, it's like, and it's taking away from like talking about like how fun this movie is, Anyway, I wish the best for a sequel. I hope that it's a good sequel. And I believe we will get one. And I wish the best for Glen Powell. I would be lying if I did not say I had a celebrity crush on him. I genuinely think he's a really talented actor too. But yeah, and I also wish well for Lee Isaac Chung in his directing career. Minari was one of my favorites of 2020, and yeah, that's really all I have to say for this video. Well, thank you for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this and are inspired to check out some of these films. You can follow me on Instagram at Positive Poems, and Twitter at Josie Poetess. And if you want to check out more of my stuff, click the like button and subscribe. Thank you for watching. I hope everybody is having a super fun summer. Goodbye for now.